I am super excited to be co-hosting the booktube hosted by Gabby from Gabby Reads for the August pick, The Ghostwriter by Julie Clark. So I decided that I need to read every single booktube pick. I did this a couple months ago for the Literally Dead book club hosted by Kayla from Books and Lala, so I will have that linked in the description. I read 8 or 9 books that I needed to complete every single pick up to that point. I have a couple more that I have to read for Gabby's book club. As with every book club, I loosely participate, so I have read a lot of these, but there are some that I still need to pick up, and I'm excited to do that in this video with you. So we are going to go by years of the book club. This is the 5th year that it is happening. So let's do a countdown. We'll start with year 5. There are 8 picks. I do only have 7 of them. I have already read 3, so I have to read 5. Year 4 is this stack over here. This is not going well. There were 12 picks and I have read all 12 of them. Then we have year 3. I am missing 2 from this stack. Nana by Brandon Massey and Wonderland by Jennifer Hillier, which I have read both of. I have not read 4 from this year, which puts our total at 9 so far. Then we have the second year, and I've actually read all of these. And then the very first year of the book club, I have not read 6 of them. So I have 15 books to get to, so let's start reading. Glasses are the worst for filming. I should just start preemptively taking them off. I have started the first pick that I have not read for the booktube, which also happens to be the very first pick. I've been subscribed to Gabby for a very, very long time at this point, but I'm generally really bad with keeping up with book clubs in the moment consistently, and I had learned this about myself at this point, but I'm really, really excited to read this one because I have loved from this author previously. I don't know where my books are. Oh, yes. My favorite from her is her one that came out last year, The Heiress. I'm also so excited because I have an early copy of the one that comes out in January called The Storm, I believe. I also really enjoyed Reckless Girls. I thought it was so much fun. I didn't like The Villa quite as much. I thought it was decent. And I feel like I remember people not loving this one, which is why I ended up not picking it up for the book club. But I'm 115 pages in. I just got to part 4 and I'm enjoying it so far. So in this we are following Jane, and she has just moved to Birmingham, Alabama. She's living with this creep that she met in the foster system growing up, and he is just like gross and weird and clearly is just like icky. He's icky, and she is just like barely making it. She moved to this place from Nevada, I believe, because something happened. We know something happened. We don't know what it was. And this was a person that she was able to reach out to and was like, yeah, you can stay with me. So she pays him rent, and she's a dog walker for super rich people. And a lot of her life is spent kind of in the shadows of these people. They treat her nicely because they want to look good, not because they care about treating people nicely. And then one day she is walking and she almost gets hit, and the guy invites her into his house, and she goes in and they kind of have like a little flirting going on. So there's this connection with them, and she's like, you know, I'm just going to keep talking to him. Like, she does like him, but also he has a lot of money. And she very quickly realizes that his wife died recently. It was about a year ago, and her best friend died in this boating accident. So it's B and what's her name? Blanche. What a name. So yeah, they died, and she is helping Blanche's husband to clean out her stuff. He is a creep, but also is like, you need to be wary of Eddie. But she's like, whatever, and puts herself on this path to really insert herself into his life. His being Eddie, not Trip. What kind of name is Trip? Actually, he's like James the Third and goes by Trip, which I still don't know why you would pick that. But Eddie is kind of elusive. He doesn't elusive, is that the word? He doesn't really interact with the community a lot anymore, especially after his wife died. She was a very, very successful business owner. She owned, I don't know what it's called, but this very successful like home decor company, which turned into like, she also had necklaces and stuff. So Eddie is now running B's company and also the company that he works for. So he's very busy, and he initially hires, I already forget her name. There are too many names. Not really, but from my brain there are. He hires Jane to walk his dog, and then it turns into more, and they go out to dinner, and then he's a jerk, and he's like, no, just kidding. I really like you, but I'm still grieving. So they end up forming this relationship. She's moving into his life slowly, but they're like both on the same page about it, maybe for different reasons. Yeah, so it was a boating accident that B and Blanche drowned in, and she also feels like getting an in with him is going to protect her from whatever she's running from in her past. There's also a lot with Jane feeling like she isn't fancy enough, didn't come from enough. She grew up with no money, passed around in a foster system, and she has a lot just like going on with that. So, like, I don't blame her for trying to get an in with the rich people. Having the money to do whatever you want, especially if you don't ever have that and don't have stability in your life, like, I get it. So part one is from Jane's perspective. And then we are getting these little chapters that are different parts from another perspective. I'm not gonna tell you who that is from because it doesn't tell you in the synopsis, but there's a little bit more going on than everybody seems to be noticing. Where I am right now, we are starting to get like little hints at that Jane is picking up on. Also, this says it is flipping the script on Jane Eyre, a timeless tale of forbidden romance, ill-advised attraction, and a wife who just won't stay buried. Have I read Jane Eyre? No. Do I plan on it? No. But I'm enjoying this. I think that Rachel Hawkins, just like the way she tells stories, works for me. Even though this is something that's a little bit more domestic than I typically like, because really she's just trying to fit into this rich people neighborhood and forming a relationship with this guy. But also I do like the part of like, they probably should not be together for various reasons, but they're doing it anyway. And like, I do enjoy seeing a female main character that's just like doing what she needs to do to get to where she wants to be in life. So far so good. I'm happy to be reading this. First of all, tell me why it's raining outside and my neighbor is mowing. Second, let me sit down. This camera's heavy. This is kind of dating how long I've been working on this video, but the Squid Game season 3 premiere starts tonight. So excited. I did a watch along of season 1 and 2 with my Patreon, so we, what are you doing there? Are gonna be watching season 3 together. It's only 6 episodes, which I'm scared about, but like, I can't wait. It's so fun to discuss it as it's happening. So super excited for that. So I wanted to check in with the wife upstairs. Rachel Hawkins, honestly, is one of my favorite thriller authors. I think that I gave Reckless Girls 4.5 stars, and I think if I read it now, I would probably give it 5 stars because it was just fun. The air is fun. The wife upstairs, fun. I hate Roman numerals. 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, this is the chapter I am on. I don't have too much to say. I'm loving the rich people drama that we are getting in here, and also the fact that our main character is not part of that. Sometimes I do like it when we are following a very rich main character that gets what they deserve, or at least like one of the main characters, but our main character is just really trying to fit in and become a part of this society. We've learned about what has happened in her past, and it's not like a big deal. I mean, like, it is, but not to the point that I thought it was going to be. But I also understand why our main character feels like it's a really big deal. So I like getting that. I'm just enjoying everything. I don't know what it is. I just find her books very compelling, very compulsive reads. And I love that. I love that for me. So I am going to, oh, what time is it? I'm probably going to read for the next like 20 minutes or so before the watch along starts. Then we're going to be watching season 2 finale and the first 2 episodes of season 3. So I'll probably give you my quick thoughts because Love Squid Game. Also, if you like Squid Game and you haven't seen Alice in Borderland, you should do that. Okay, I'm gonna get back to reading, but like I'm really having a good time. The first 2 episodes of season 3 of Squid Game. First one, boring. Second one, I don't know how to process anything that just happened. That was a lot. That's all. That's the update. I finished The Wife Upstairs. I love Rachel Hawkins. I think her books are entertaining. They're fun. There's just something about it that is very compelling for me. This is not a story that I generally would like by a lot of authors, but the way she tells it, I don't know. Okay, actually, I think that I would like this from other authors. I really moved away from reading domestic thrillers, but when they're done in a way that is not just watching this couple fighting, like that's what I don't like, and that's not what this is. There's drama within relationships, but I feel like that is different than just watching people that clearly just need to get a divorce and being annoyed by the fact that I'm like, just go away. Like, get out of here. Don't do this in front of me. So this kind of domestic drama, I enjoy it. There's stuff between different couples, friends, new incoming people into people's lives. So I had a very, very good time with this. I'm going to give it 4.5 stars. My quick Rachel Hawkins ranking. The Heiress is my favorite, and then Reckless Girls, and then The Wife Upstairs, and then The Villa. I'm super excited to read her next book, but that'll be for another time. I am moving on to the next book that I have not read for the booktube, which happens to be the second book club pick, which is The Wrong Family. I intentionally did not pick this one up because I read The Wives by Taryn Fisher and hated it. I thought that it was like generally entertaining for parts of it. The direction that book went in, it like pissed me off. I was no. I was like, I'm never reading Taryn Fisher ever again. Here we are. And I hope I like it better than The Wives. We're in a new spot. It's terrible lighting. My cats are eating. I have to stand here and watch them eat. They're on separate food. Winston has a medicated food and Nova likes to eat it. I have made it to part 2 of The Wrong Family. Oh, I'm nervous. I'm nervous that this is going to go in the same direction that The Wives went in that I hated. I have only read these 2. Well, I haven't finished this, but I haven't read anything else from Taryn Fisher besides The Wives and this one. So in this, we are following 2 characters. We are following Winnie and Juno. Part 1, chapter 1 starts with Juno, and she is sneaking around and you're like, what are you doing? She is talking about like the contents of the fridge and like it just like all feels odd. And then all of a sudden she wakes up and she's like, oh crap, I didn't realize what time it was. She like has this book on her lap that falls on the ground. She runs away and then she like goes into the wall and then she's living in like this, I don't know. Well, I think no, because then we get this like super quick conversation about Winnie, who is our other main character, and her husband. Oh, it's not Jeff. Nigel. Also, if anybody's named Nigel, in my head, you are Nigel Thornberry. So they have an awful relationship. And remember how I talked to you about how that's something that I don't like? Yeah. So, okay. Winnie and Nigel, there's something that happened in their past where they like don't talk about it, but it's kind of always at the back of their minds and it's causing issues. And they have this son and he is 13, and it seems like they're kind of staying together for the kid, but also Winnie still really likes Nigel. It seems like Nigel does not really care about her anymore, but they're together. We are learning about their backstory and then seeing little glimpses into things that are like whatever the heck is wrong with their relationship. Get a divorce. That's it. So that could be the end of this book and that would be great. But here's the thing, Juno is living in their apartment that they had made, and it's this addition that Nigel wanted because he wanted to be able to rent it out when they had money issues, because Winnie bought the house and it was really old, falling apart, but she wanted to live in that neighborhood. She pretty much bought it without him. So that's a sore spot in their marriage. So it seems like Juno is living in the apartment. You really find this out within the first 2 chapters, and like I guess it's technically still an assumption, but they don't seem to know she's there, because sometimes they're like bringing up somebody living in the apartment, and like there's no real interactions between any of them. And anytime Juno is in their house, she's sneaking around and like on edge, and she's like, ooh, haha, I'm gonna eat the last pickle. And then there's things where like she ate their spaghetti. Once again, this happens very early on. And then they're like fighting because they thought there was more spaghetti. So she is just kind of creepily living in there. But she's also a retired therapist and has some sort of connection to their son. Like they've talked in the park, and I don't really understand what's going on with that. So there's a lot of like assumptions and unanswered questions. My air conditioner just kicked on. Good thing I'm almost done. So that's all weird, and like that is the only interesting part, because the other part is just them being like, I hate you. My brother's gonna live with us and he's terrible. And he's like, don't do that. And she said, too late, he's moving in. So there's something that happened with him in the past. And just like, also nothing is happening. And I don't find people just like fighting and then being like, but we have a secret. I don't find that very compelling. I do like that there's somebody secretly living in their house, but yeah, you know. So we find out this thing. We don't really know any details about that, but we're going to, because part 2 is then, and it's just a really short thing. It's, I don't know, 50 pages maybe. So we're gonna find out what happened in the past that Juno overheard, but I think that this is going to become a little bit offensive in the mental health category. So I just feel it. I feel it in my bones. That's what happened in The Wives, because I did enjoy the first part of that book, but I ended up giving it 1 star because I hated the twist, the direction that it went in. Oh God. So yeah, I don't know. I'm scared that this is going to end up being not great representation, using mental health as like a plot twist or like something that's just like weird vibes, especially because I have experienced that from this author previously. I'm gonna read what happened then, probably check in with you. I'm not excited, and I'm only reading this because there's somebody living in their walls. I am on a mission to find some cheese and my book. I left my book in the kitchen, which is where I was talking to you. I have made it through part 2 though. I've been listening to the audiobook and doing this like cross stitch coloring thing on my laptop. This is gonna be super quick because, hello, my camera is about to die. Oh, Winston came to join me. So part 2 was about Juno and how she came to become involved in this family and learning about their house and things like that. It was not what I was expecting. I really thought it was going to be about Winnie and I can't remember his name. Nigel Thornberry. Well, minus the Thornberry. So I'm now 125 pages in. The rest of it, I don't know. I did, I guess, enjoy part 2, but it was less exciting when a lot of it, even though it's sad, was this lady just being like, I'm homeless and I need somewhere to live. Like, why else would she be living in their house in the first place? So like there's nothing malicious going on, but I don't know, it's not very exciting. And we're still not to where I thought we would be. Like, we don't have all that information. I think I'm not enjoying the amount of things that we know but don't know. Yeah, I don't think that part is working for me. And then like everything is just kind of boring and not super exciting. So I'm gonna go get ready for bed. I do need to get that cheese that I said that I was going to get. It's midnight, so I'm not sure how much more I'm going to get through. I'm scared. Also, I don't know if I trust Colleen Hoover blurbing a thriller. I'm pretty sure they're like good friends, or they used to be, or something. Did they write a book together? I don't know. That sounds familiar. So I'm gonna get back to reading. This is not my favorite. Yeah, so 2 stars. I have finished The Wrong Family, and no, it was even worse than I was expecting in terms of the mental health representation that came up in here. The reason it's 2 stars for me, and you know, should it be 1 star? Okay, so I'm thinking about this in relation to The Wives, which I gave 1 star. That one like pissed me off because I was enjoying it until the twist, and then it made everything change, and I hated that, and I hated the representation. This one, I feel like nothing changed. There wasn't like a twist that was mental health. It was just like, this is what happened, and everything was caused by mental health stuff. Also, if you have somebody living in your walls, I want it to be creepier. There were like 2 moments where someone was like, a ghost? And then, no. I would have really liked this if it was like disturbing with the person living in their house, like weird things with that, and then not all the stuff that happened like at the end. I don't have anything else to say other than this. It's a lot of misunderstandings based on things that were overheard, assumptions, you know. I don't know, 2 stars kind of feels high because I generally give 2 stars to books that I was just bored by, and I was bored by this, but I also thought it was offensive. So I guess 1 star, even though it didn't like give me a viscerally angry emotion like The Wives did. Still absolutely would not recommend this. I don't like this kind of reveal in books. I think that none of the characters were interesting. The plot was boring, even though it had a lot of potential. Good. At least we started with a 4.5 stars, so if nothing else, there's that to fall back on. I don't want to talk about this anymore. We're done. Moving on. Here is the situation. I have made it to part 3, which is 192 pages in. I didn't check in at the end of part 1 because it was only 20% in and nothing was happening, so I had nothing to talk to you about. Nothing is still happening 200 pages in, so I will be DNFing it. I think that the pacing in this book is kind of bad. So in this, we are following Nella, and she is the only Black woman at a publishing company that she works for, and she is really trying to push to have more diverse people in the office, have more people understand just different things, with like how important it is to have different voices and different kinds of people giving input to things. So I think that all is great. Then there's a new hire for an assistant to one of the editors, and she is also Black, and Nella wants to be her friend, but then like she gets a little bit of weird vibes from her because it seems like, I forget what her name is, Hazel. So there are just like some things where it's like, why is Hazel getting these opportunities, but Nella has not gotten those in the time she's been here. So it just like, she feels like things are slightly off. And then she gets a note left on her desk that says, "Leave Wagner now." That's the publishing company. And she starts to become suspicious of everybody. So she does confide in Hazel, but then she starts to suspect that it was Hazel that left her this note. She doesn't know why. She is very upset about this. The problem is, it feels like the author wrote this book because she wanted to like say things, and not because she had a plot to say it with. It really just feels like our author wants to tell people about the issues of being a Black woman in publishing, which is very valid. Like, I think that's a good thing to discuss, to shed light on. And I think like the idea of code switching, I personally don't know all the nuances of this. It's not something that I personally have to do, but I know a lot of people of color do. So I think that it is interesting to see that aspects in this book, because sadly society puts expectations on people, and if you don't fit in with those expectations, you are seen as not smart enough, not good enough, not professional enough, which like really sucks because a lot of the way a lot of people act comes from culture. So all of that stuff was decent, good things to say, but there was nothing going on within the plot itself. She got this note, and that's all that has happened 200 pages in. I also get a little bit of weird vibes that like the issue seems to be between the two black characters. There is like some weird competition that Nella has kind of put in her mind that she has to like be the better of the two. And that just feels weird to me. And I have spoiled myself on the ending. And that all feels like just a choice that I don't love. I've also seen tons of black creators not liking this book for a lot of reasons. One of them being that they feel like it wasn't written for them. This is from a black author, but they feel like it was written for white people to learn things, which I think there's a way that it can be both. And I don't know if this book does that. I think the commentary that this has is like good stuff to say, but I didn't like the way that it was done and the extreme lack of plot in the first half of this book. I just could not do it anymore. So I will be DNFing the other black girl 55% in. So next up is The Taking of Jake Livingston. This is one that I initially did not pick up because it is YA, and I don't really pick up much YA. There are a few that I have really loved, and they're all in the horror and thriller genres. I really won't pick up anything outside of those genres that is not adult at this point, but I am now 100 pages in, and in this we are following two characters. We're following Jake and we're following Sawyer. Jake Livingston is our main character, and he lives in two very different kinds of worlds. The one world he is a part of is it a prep school? Yes. St. Clair Prep. He's one of the only black students. There's constant racism towards him. It's a bunch of rich people and they think they're better than everybody. He doesn't really have anybody that he connects to in a bunch of ways. A lot of that is because of his race and his class, and then a lot of it is because he can see ghosts. I think that the way that that is done is really cool, but also like I cannot imagine being him because he sees like the deaths as they happen. He's not seeing people that are just like now ghosts. He's witnessing these events and like could not function. And then the other part of the world that he is in is his neighborhood. It is working class, diverse, and then his neighbor, a survivor of a grisly school shooting, is murdered, and the bloody initials of the now dead shooter, Sawyer, are left on the entryway wall of Jake's home. Jake is forced to confront another world he wishes he could escape, the world of the dead. I think that seeing these ghosts in their death loop is a really unique take on this. I think it makes it even more horrific. The idea of seeing ghosts, I think, is just like interesting in general. I don't know if I believe in ghosts, but like my nephew has had some really weird things he said about ghosts, so now I think I might. I don't know. I would like to know if you believe in ghosts, but I feel like I'm in between. I have not seen a ghost, so I don't feel like this strong, like, yes, there are ghosts, but I'm not opposed to the idea either. But he generally ignores these ghosts. He is not part of it. He tries to avoid it at all costs, but now he feels like he has to become more involved in everything. So we are getting Jake's perspective, but we're also getting Sawyer's perspective. So Sawyer doesn't fit in. He is made fun of. He has a bad home life, and then he ends up killing 6 people at his school and then himself. So we are actually getting Sawyer's perspective. Where I am now, he has not gotten to that part. I'm a little nervous for how that is going to be described. And this is just a lot for a YA book. Also, I've accidentally read like 4 books with school shootings in them in a row. And I don't know how, not in a row, but like within a short amount of time. And I don't know how that has happened to me, because I feel like they're not that common. It's very rough subject matter, and this is definitely the one that is like the most involved with the books that I've been reading. I think there's a lot of discussions that will be important, especially for teens and the world that we live in, to be reading. I just think it's gonna be really sad, and I don't know how much I want that to happen, but it is what it is. Also, I do have a complaint about the audiobook. I don't think that it was mixed very well, so we have a different narrator for Sawyer and Jake, and the audio level is different and the quality is my main thing actually that is different. So like my brain cannot focus when it switches to Sawyer's perspective because like the mic is really different or something, and I don't like it. So I don't know if I would recommend the audiobook specifically, but I started listening to this when I was in the car and I had no other choice. So yeah, there's that. So far, I think that it's a good book, but a tough read. It is pretty late, but I've been reading The Taking of Jake Livingston. I'm struggling with this one a little bit, and I'm not exactly sure how to even talk about my feelings on it, but I have been finding it so easy to put it down and get distracted. I've been watching TikToks about Hamilton, the musical. Yeah, so I'm just like, oh, I could watch this same video done by somebody else a million times. Like, why do I need to watch a 20-something-year-old woman pretend to be Alexander Hamilton sneaking out of a window? I don't know, but I just need to watch a million of them. Sorry, the lighting is really bad. I don't think that helped. So, earlier when I said we were following both characters, we're getting journal entries from the one character, and it's a very tough situation because like this character has gone through so much, Sawyer has, and that doesn't excuse what he has done. Like going into a school and shooting people is not excusable in any way, but I think there's also a lot of discussion that could be had around not why he did it. Like, I'm not trying to say that this is ever a good reaction to anything that happened, but he has gone through a lot, and there is not a lot of systems set up for children, specifically boys, when they have horrific things going on in their life. And I think that that is a separate issue, but is still an issue. So like I've seen people not like this book because they feel like they are meant to sympathize with Sawyer as a character, and like I don't think the author's trying to do that, but at the same time, like, these are still humans, and there are a lot of times circumstances that lead to things happening, even though it's not the correct response. But like, we don't teach people how to respond to things correctly, and that's why I think a lot of society is the way that it is with people's responses to things. I don't really know where I'm going with this anymore. The thing is, I don't think that this plot is very exciting. I think it has a lot of potential, but I don't think that really anything is actually going on. This has so much potential to be very interesting and involved, and I feel like we're kind of glossing over a lot of stuff so that more things that the author wants to talk about can be put in the book. And I think that there's a lot of good discussion about being Black and queer and being in high school and being in a marginalized community in a very white-centered place, and the issues that come with that, the way that they are treated. But the story itself, I feel like, is missing a lot, and I don't really care about Jake as a character, and I feel like I'm supposed to, but I'm not really given much. I don't know if my issues with this are because it's YA and I don't read a lot of YA at this point. Well, actually I never really have, because in the time that I would have been reading YA books, like mostly high school, I wasn't reading other than The Hunger Games and like dystopian stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not loving it. I'm really struggling to continue reading it, but not in like I hate this kind of way, just like I'm not invested at all. And it kind of sucks because I think that there's so many cool things happening in this book. We have a lot to talk about. I've been doing lots and lots of reading and not nearly as much updating as I should be. So to start, I have finished The Taking of Jake Livingston. I'm gonna give this one 3 stars. I think it had good discussions in it. I just didn't really love the execution. I think there were really, really great ideas in here with everything that was happening. I think it was very interesting and unique, but I don't know if it was just like the general execution or the execution plus it being YA that just led me to feel generally okay about this book. It has a lot of like darker subject matter in it. I think they're good things to be discussing, but I feel like as a teen, this would be a lot to read, even though I completely understand that a lot of Black people and people of color do not have the ability to look away from a lot of these things. That being said, I understand sadly that school shootings happen, and I am not saying that race should not be discussed. I don't exactly know how to articulate my thoughts. I think they were good discussions, but some aspects of it were a little much, but this is one that definitely causes you to think, and I generally enjoyed it. Another book down, still in the first year of the book troop, so moving on to 56 Days. I made a 29% in, so I'm like 95 pages in. I am gonna have to DNF this one. I am not engaged in this story at all. So 56 days ago, what are their names? Claire and Oliver meet at a grocery store in Dublin, and it is the week that COVID has started to hit Ireland. So there's a lot of discussion on that and the way people are initially reacting to things, the initial panic that is happening, and also the initial dismissal of things that is happening. Obviously, this is not set in the US, but there are definitely characters in here that are reacting in a very cautious way and then in a very dismissive way as well, which I feel like was accurate probably everywhere. And then we're also following 35 days ago, where they have decided that they might want to move in together because Oliver is on the strict side of the COVID restrictions. He wants to follow them. He believes they're there for a reason. He also might have some ulterior motives. We are getting both characters' perspectives. We are in third person in this, but we are following both characters, and there are some very suspicious things going on with Oliver. The synopsis says, Sierra sees a unique opportunity for a relationship to flourish without the scrutiny of family and friends. Oliver sees a chance to hide who and what he really is. There is something going on that he is trying to keep from her. We don't really know a lot of the details of it, but he is trying to like prevent things from happening. I don't know how to explain it. But like, he thinks that she is doing something, so he's trying to stop her from doing what she's doing. And then we are also getting the today perspective, and that is when detectives arrive to Oliver's house and there is a body that is decomposing in the house. I guess it's this exploration on if COVID and the lockdown was like a perfect scenario to commit a crime. They are trying to figure out what happened. We don't exactly know the details of that either. The way that this is written, we are getting all three of these timelines, and it's a little confusing because it jumps back and forth, and I don't know. I don't really love it. I don't like any of the characters, and it's not that I want to like root for them or anything, but none of them feel very interesting to me. And then I think that the plot is interesting enough, like the idea of them showing up and there being this decomposing body and how do we get here. I like that, but I don't think that that is interesting enough to warrant the like confusing aspects of this. I feel like it's kind of hard to follow. I'm not really loving anything about it. The thing is, like, I think I would finish it and give it 2 stars. Do I really want to do that? No, I think it's like kind of boring. I am putting it down and not wanting to pick it back up at all. I have no real interest in continuing it, so I'm not going to. And the other thing with that is that I have previously read from Catherine Ryan Howard and given the book 2 stars. It was The Trap, I believe, and I didn't like the setup of that and how that was done, even though it was an interesting story as well. So I will be moving on from 56 Days, DNFing this one about a third in. I gave it a good go, but I just don't feel the need to continue anymore. Moving on to False Witness. This is the last book from year 1 of the booktube that I have not read. And then when I finish this, I will be done years 1 and 2 because I've already read all of year 2. This is my third from Karen Slaughter. I read Pretty Girls a couple years ago, and then I read The Good Daughter very recently. She has some long books, but I'm really enjoying this one. I am 145 pages in. I just got to chapter 6. These are very, very long chapters, which isn't bothering me, but it's just like a thing. Honestly, it's good because I'm like, okay, I'm gonna read an entire chapter without getting distracted by something, and somehow it's working. Okay, so in this we are following two sisters, which is kind of standard for her standalone books, at least. I haven't read any books in actual series, but that happens in Pretty Girls, The Good Daughter, and this one. So we are following Lee and Callie. So we start out in the summer of 1998. We are reading about Callie as she is babysitting, and she finds herself in this awful situation. It actually is kind of a surprise. It's like 5 pages in, but it's kind of a surprise that Callie is the babysitter. It's kind of made to seem like she is the wife, and this guy comes home and he's just like really gross and is talking about how tiny she is and like them doing sexual things. And then we find out she's actually the babysitter, and things end up going poorly between them. There is a kid that is at the house, and he kind of interrupts the situation. Callie does not want to be doing these things with him, but he has really groomed her, and she feels that she is in love with him, so she is doing things just because he wants her to. But she's uncomfortable with the fact that he constantly is talking about how small she is and all this stuff, and it's just like a really weird time. This one is a little hard to talk about because the synopsis doesn't even tell you what happens in that part, but it is the catalyst for the whole story. So she ends up killing the guy on accident in this, and the two sisters are covering up the murder, it seems. So the sister Lee is now the main character that we are following, and she is a lawyer. She had big plans for her life that involved moving away from this town that she grew up in, but she didn't make it very far because of everything that happened with her and Callie. She is defending very awful people that have committed very horrific crimes, but she's like, somebody has to do it, and she is working at this law firm, and the boss, who is very, very high up and never really talks to people like her, has contacted her saying, I need you to come in for this case. You've been requested by name. And it is somebody that is connected to everything that happened in her past. She goes by different names, so like, how did this guy find her? Suspicious. She also has a daughter, so there's some issues with her and the amount she has to work as a defense attorney. And it is also COVID when this is happening, which, like, how am I reading 2 COVID books in a row? Though, I don't know, the way that it's done just isn't bothering me. It feels like it's part of the story, but she is also divorced from her husband, so they, like, have a fine relationship, but there's co-parenting, there's being this defense attorney, there is hiding everything from her past, and then also her sister. Callie has sadly been very impacted by everything that happened in her past and has turned to drugs. And Lee has tried to help her previously, tried to get her to go to rehab, and nothing has really worked. So Lee ends up contacting Callie and was like, hey, this guy might know more than he should, so we need to keep an eye on things. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic between the two of them. This case that she has been contacted for is a rape case, and he seems to have done it. So she is dealing with the connections to her past she's trying to hide, and also defending this guy, and the fact that he specifically asked for her. He keeps bringing up her sister. It's really weird. So Lee has brought Callie into this so that they can try to, I guess, hide their past, still figure out what is going on. Lee is dealing with COVID, her daughter, this case, her sister, a lot going on. I don't think this is quite as engaging as the other 2 I have read from her, but I think the other 2 are definitely more popular, more widely read and loved. But I am enjoying this. There's something about the way that Karen Slaughter writes that it doesn't bother me that her books are this long. I think there's a lot of interesting discussions in it, conversations, and a lot of things happening within character dynamics that I appreciate. I don't have long before my camera battery dies, so good thing I don't have much to say. I'm about 300 pages into False Witness, and I think that the middle part of this was not very exciting. I feel like the story did not progress in any real way. There was a little bit of information we found out, but it's really dragging for me at this point. I think it's like okay, it's decent, but I'm losing steam, I'm losing interest. I don't think that anything is that compelling with other Karen Slaughter books, even though they are longer. I still feel invested in everything that's happening. And in this one, I prefer one character, one storyline over the other, and I think that it would have been enough to just get everything that is happening from one perspective instead of both. I wish I was more invested in this because it's a long book. I've said it about her other 2 books and given them both 4 stars. This one I think is leaning more towards 3. Like, I'm still liking it. I think it's interesting enough, but I wish more was happening, even if it's just complexities within relationships that are happening. I just don't think we're getting enough of anything. I have finished False Witness. I enjoyed the last part of this a lot more than the middle. I do think I am going to give this one 3 stars. I think that the plot was never completely engaging for me. I have seen people compare this to Pretty Girls, and I would agree. There's a lot of similarities. It's not the same exact thing, obviously, but I think that that one is better. I think this would be higher if the middle part was shorter, but the way things wrapped up, the conversation on women living in this world, sadly, was very relevant and important, and I really liked all the discussions. I had a good time with it. I just think it was too long, and in other books from her, it didn't bother me quite as much because I felt like interesting things were still happening, but this one, I think it really dragged in the middle. This one definitely does deal with COVID as well, which it didn't bother me in this book because it felt like just like the thing that was happening and not that it was just like put in there to be a book about it, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I'm gonna give this one 3 stars, like kind of close to 3.5, but not quite there. So I have officially finished the first year of the BookTube picks. 2 DNFs, a 1 star, and then 3 books that I did generally enjoy. My favorite was The Wife Upstairs from the ones that I read. Overall, though, my favorite from the first year is The Last House on Needless Street. It is my only 5-star from the first year. This is one of my favorite books. And then, even though I had some DNFs, I would still say The Wrong Family is my least favorite. Moving on to year 2, there were 12 picks, and I've actually already read all of them. I have 1 DNF from this stack, which was Daisy Darker. I don't really love Alice Feeney. And then I have 2 5-stars from this stack. Controversial, I know, but The Paris Apartment. But my favorite from this year was Jackal by Erin E. Adams. And I actually enjoyed all of these books. So moving on to year 3, the first book I need to read is The Soulmate. Hello, welcome to my kitchen. I have made 102 pages into The Soulmate, so I'm going to talk about that while I'm making these like Oreo truffles. There's no truffle to be seen, but they're like just Oreo balls. My sisters and I are doing this thing where we all make a dessert and then we swap it, like a third of it. So we each get part of what we made and then part of other things, so then we don't have too much of one thing. So this is the first time we're doing this, but I think it'll be a lot of fun. So I'm making these and we are doing the swap tomorrow. So I'm currently crushing Oreos while I'm talking. So that's what this sound is. So The Soulmate is my first from, who's this author? Sally Hepworth. I did not know that this author was Australian, so there's that bit of information for you. So in this we are following, I wish I knew names. How many times can I say that? Gabe and Pippa, and we are getting 2 perspectives, but one of them is not Gabe. So we're mostly following Pippa. And she is married to Gabe, and they have 2 daughters together, and they have moved to this cliffside house. Excuse you two. Why are the cats fighting right now? They've moved to this place, and there's a very steep cliff that people can easily throw themselves off if they choose. And it doesn't generally happen, but it has. And at the very beginning, we see somebody come out to this cliff, and Gabe goes out to kind of try to get this person to come back, and it's storming, and it's this like intense situation, and then this person ends up going over, and Gabe says that she was hysterical and that he couldn't do anything to stop her. He tried, but then he doesn't really say anything else in his initial statement. The thing is, Pippa saw the interaction, and she saw him with his hands like out, and she's like, that's suspicious. And she's a little bit concerned about this, so she asks him about it, and he said that she tried to jump and he tried to get her, even though like it's not a good idea if somebody's trying to fall over a cliff. Like, yes, your instinct is to save them, but they've been told time and time again that that is not what they should be doing, because the person could easily pull them over, and then that's another body. And she decides to believe this. You know, ignorance is bliss. So they go about their lives, but then they have come to, they being like the cops, have come back to investigate everything, and they ask for his statement, and they ask for like a demonstration, more specifics, and all of the information that he is giving to the police is not what she remembers seeing. So she is once again very confused and concerned, and whenever she questions him, he always has like some sort of excuse, but she is just really bothered by all of this and starts to dig into it. She wants to find out who the woman is that has jumped, and she's looking into it more, and she comes to find out that there might be some connection. So the other perspective we're getting is Amanda, after she has died and is watching her husband learn what happened. And she is saying that she did not go to this place with the intent of not leaving. We find out a little bit later why she has actually gone here, and that's a reveal, so I'm not going to say that, but we are following her. So we're also getting Amanda's perspective, learning about her husband. He had a lot of money, and they have a very unique relationship. So we're seeing like if things actually did lead her to whatever, but that's more so in like the present time. We are getting some information in the past about Gabe and Pippa, how they met. They have a secret. Everybody has secrets that they're trying to kind of hide from us as readers. There are things that they don't really let themselves think about, so it's done in that way where it's like this thing could ruin everything and we move past it and we don't want to think about it. So there is that. I think this is fine. It's a really, really quick read, but I don't have any strong feelings either way about it. It's a little more domestic than like my personal taste, just because it's really just about like these couples. It's not done in the way that like truly bothers me. So I'm having a decent time with it. I think the next time I check in with you, I will be done with the Oreo balls so I can show you them, but I'm really excited to eat these. I love the little pup. My Oreo truffles, oh, you can see the box of goldfish that Adam left there. He's always snacking on goldfish and just leaving the box everywhere so that he has easy access to the goldfish. Bowser's like, why are you talking? Because I haven't been saying anything for a very long time. Speaking of a very long time, it's been a very long time because, yikes, this book is boring. I feel like nothing has happened. Like, 3 pages of things have happened, and other than that, nothing. Nothing of excitement. There's no tension. There's no interesting relationships. There's like reveals, but they're not things that feel like they matter. And I'm sure they do to a certain extent, but maybe make it a little more interesting. There's also some weird stuff in here that I don't know how I feel about it. There is mental health discussions. And for once, listen, it is not the woman, which I can appreciate, but they're saying this guy was diagnosed with ADHD, but the things that they are describing are not, it's not that. Like, it's not. So I'm really confused if somebody's lying about something or if there was a weird false diagnosis and if that's going to come into the plot, because I'm like, this makes no sense and it feels really weird. It's very clear to me that this character is dealing with symptoms related to bipolar and not ADHD, and I don't understand the thought process, and I'm sorry, that maybe spoil things later on. I don't know. I haven't been there yet, but it just like is weird, and I don't understand. And like, not saying that people aren't reading this book anymore and that people aren't reading books from, what is this, 2022 or something? 2023? Like, I get that people are, but people aren't talking about this book. This never was a book that blew up, so I feel like large amounts of people aren't reading this. And like, if a mental health diagnosis ruins the book, then like the book probably isn't that great in the first place. So yeah, things are weird, don't love it, and it's boring. I did finish my Oreo truffles. They literally just look like little balls that are brown, so I don't feel like getting up to show you. Nope, did not like the end of this. The direction that this went in really was not my favorite. I don't like the implications of specific things. There were some elements that were surprising to me, but overall this went downhill for me as it went. The very beginning, I was like mildly interested in. The further it went, I was like, wow, this is boring, and also I don't like where I think this is going. Did not like it. It never got entertaining, and the little things that were surprising to me, I didn't care about because I didn't care about anything else that happened. So that's really all I have to say about this. I might try more from Sally Hepworth because I have not read from her previously, but I'm not jumping out of my way to do so. I don't know if I agree with these little blurbs on the back. Impossible to put down. A lie. She writes characters you love. Leanne Moriarty also lied. Don't tell her I said that. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't say this is masterful. I have some issues with it, but yeah, so 2 stars. The issues weren't as bad as they could be. That sounds awful. Yeah, I don't know. Moving on from this. I didn't really have a good time. But this is one that I was like vaguely interested in, so I'm glad that I read it. Next up, here's the situation. I had a car ride and I was like, okay, next up is Good Bad Girl. I started it. I was like, oh, I've read this before. Okay, well, not read it. I've DNF'd this before. So I got the audiobook from Libby and it started me at like 20%. And I said, oh, did I start this before? And then I was like, no, maybe I just like was trying to see how far 20% in was, like how many pages, whatever. I don't know why I thought that, because that doesn't make any sense. But I was in the car and I was reading it. I was like, oh, I've read this before. But it's been like 2 years probably. So, well, actually, when did this come out? It was fairly close to when this came out. Okay, in 2023. I didn't mark this as DNF. I didn't mark it as like the fact that I started it. I don't know, which usually I do. So I decided to give it a go. Again, I made it 26% into the audiobook, about 85 pages in, and I will be DNFing it for the second time. I think I said earlier that I am an Alice Feeney hater. I have given her books 1 star twice and DNF'd other than this book. So I know everybody loves Rock, Paper, Scissors, but I don't. I hate it. And then one of my least favorite books of all time is I Know Who You Are. And I think that one makes no sense, is a bit offensive. And when I was listening to the audiobook for it, the thing that happened while I was driving. I missed my exit because I was like, are you kidding me? And then I had to figure out where the heck I was. This was after being in the car for 2 hours too. So I just, I don't like that book at all. Like, that's probably one of my least favorite books ever. And then I have DNF'd, what's the one that came before this one? Why doesn't she have her books written in here? The one that is like the isolated island one with maybe an inheritance, which are things that I usually love. And I don't like it. And I think what I have discovered about her writing that I don't like is that she likes to tell you that something is wrong, but doesn't ever give you anything, and it just like kind of pisses me off. In this one, there are too many characters. I guess I could tell you a little bit about what it's about. So we are generally set around this like nursing home. We're following somebody that works there. We're following the daughter of somebody that is like in care there. So we're following Frankie, who is a therapist, and she has lost her daughter at the very beginning. It says it's the end, and she has lost her daughter at a grocery store. So there's Frankie. Patience works at the nursing home, and then Cleo is the one whose mom is at this nursing home. Edith is another perspective we're getting, and she is the one in the nursing home. And it's too much between all of them. I don't really care about what's going on with any of their stories, but like each one ends with some like ominous sentence. And like, I guess it's supposed to build the tension, but I would like that by the things that are happening, not you saying, and then something bad happened and then switching to something else. I mean, it's not that extreme, but it feels like it because I'm grumpy about it. Listen, I can understand that this could be just like my problem. I know that a lot of people love Alice Feeney, and I can't remember, it might not be quite as bad in her other books, but in this one, I really, really don't like that element of it, and I don't like that in other books too, so this is the second time I will be DNFing Good Bad Girl. I'm not going to try it again. If you see me pick up this book in the future, remind me that I've DNF'd it twice before. But this was my bad. I wouldn't have tried it again if it wasn't like the audiobook that I had to listen to in the car. So like, it's my fault. I get it. But I was like, maybe my opinion will have changed. And it did not. So the next book that I have to read in order of like the picks is The Stranger Upstairs by Lisa M. Matlin. I have not read this one before, so there's that. We are following this woman who has bought a house to make content around that is known as a local murder house. Things have happened there, and she's going to fix it up and make videos about it, and people are like, why are you doing that? But she does it anyway. I did start this once I gave up on Good Bad Girl on my trip, but I'm not super far in, so I'll check in with you soon. I feel rough. I am adjusting to a new schedule. Adam got a new job and it's a different time than before. So I am like shifting my schedule to be on his. So we like actually are able to hang out, and it's beating me up. So I feel like I'm really, really struggling. So use that excuse to explain anything that doesn't make sense or how tired I look. I am 87 pages into The Stranger Upstairs. I just got to chapter 12, and this is one that I'm not enjoying it, but I feel like it has a lot of potential, and I don't know if it's living up to that potential for me. So I mentioned that we're following this influencer that bought this murder house. We find out a little bit about her past, where she like was part of this blog and everything, and then she wrote a self-help book that blew up, and the combination of those two things has led her to being this influencer. She has blog posts. Her website is sarahslays.com. So she is updating her website on this progress on this house. There are things that are happening that should like make me feel very tense and stressed for this character, but I'm not really feeling those things. I really like this concept. I think that it could be one of my favorite books. There's a lot of like lore around the house. So the murder that happened in it before, it was this couple, and the guy seemed to be like influenced by the house and said that there were like things happening in it. There was somebody in the attic and stuff, and he ended up murdering his wife, and now things are happening within her own relationship that are not completely mirroring, but there's some similarities between everything that happened previously and then before. And then there are other secrets that she's finding out, things related to the history of the house, and then also just seeing how this has impacted neighbors and everybody in this town,
people don't like that she bought this house, which, like, I get it, but also, is it good for a house to just, like, sit empty after something like this happens? I don't know. No idea. But a lot of the reason people are upset as well is that she's buying this house to fix it, to make money on the renovation process, and then to make profit selling it whenever she is done. Who knows if she's going to get to that point for various reasons. People don't want to come into this house. People are upcharging significant amounts to come in. Weird things are happening. But I want to feel the stress that the main character is feeling, and I'm not feeling that. That's kind of been a common issue for me with a lot of thrillers that I've been reading. The thing is, with this list of the booktube picks, except for like this year's picks, a lot of the ones that I haven't read are ones that didn't get really great ratings or I wasn't as interested in. I actually owned this book at one point and then nobody was liking it, so I got rid of it without reading it. So yeah, this is one that I don't know. I'm a little scared for. So I'm gonna play a game where I climb a mountain peak. I think I talked about that in my last vlog, but not this one. I'm gonna climb a mountain. I hope this one gets a little more creepy, which I feel like we might be leaning in that direction. I've also seen some friends give this lower ratings and a couple that have given it a higher rating. So fingers crossed. First of all, I don't think I've shown you. Look at my Squid Game bookmark. I do bookmarks on Patreon every month for my top tier, and that is the bookmark that everybody gets for August, and I'm obsessed with it. I am 189 pages into Stranger Upstairs. This is going to be short because I don't have anything to say other than the fact that I'm bored. I don't find this a very engaging story, and it's frustrating because I feel like it has the potential to be that, but it's leaning a bit into the trope of like an unreliable woman with different aspects. I don't love that. I don't love any of the characters, and the character interactions aren't very interesting either. I don't like when gaslighting is really a focus of the plot, and it's really starting to feel like that's what's going on here. Even if like the overall explanation is not that everyone has just been gaslighting her, there's been a lot of it going on because people are trying to keep secrets, and the way they're doing that is to pretend that a lot of stuff hasn't happened that she is aware of. So it's annoying, it's frustrating. Part of me is like, should I quit? But I'm so close to the end that I'm not going to do that. But this is another one that's it's just not my favorite. This is just not my kind of book. The direction that this went in isn't my favorite. Oh, hello. We have a guest. Winston was cuddling with me while I was playing games on my computer and listening to the audiobook. I don't like the twist. I don't like the direction it went in. I don't like how we got to where we got. I think that this had so much potential with the concept to be a favorite book for me, but the way that the author chose to tell the story just did not work out, in my opinion. I do think that this is one that some people could love. It does have a pretty low average rating, so I think it's more specific people, but I think I, along with a lot of people, are kind of over some twists like this. Yeah, but this also is from a couple years ago, so I've known for a little bit that these are not necessarily the kinds of books that I like. The thing is, like, I wouldn't have necessarily known that based on the synopsis either. So I'm not upset that I read this, and I'm glad that I got rid of my copy already. But yeah, I have finished The Stranger Upstairs, so I think I'm gonna give it probably 2 stars because I was generally bored and didn't really love it, but it wasn't the worst thing that I have read. So we're gonna move on to the last pick for year 3 of the booktube, and this is one that I'm actually really excited about. This is one that I've been wanting to read and just not picking up. So it's one that I think I'm going to like more, and that is Notes on an Execution. I've heard this one compared to The Quiet Tenant by Clemence Michelin that I read, I believe it was last year, and I really enjoyed. I think people tend to like this one more, so we are following, I don't know how many different characters, maybe 3 or 4. Oh yeah, okay, so a mother, a sister, and a homicide detective, all connected to this guy named Ansel. So we are following him starting off 12 hours before he is about to be executed and his thoughts and feelings. And then we are learning his story from the perspective of these 3 women. So I have started this one. I'm going to get a little further in before I kind of tell you a little bit more on it so I can meet all of the characters. But I think that based on things I've liked previously, this one will be a good one for me, both with the format and also the discussions. It is a very, very big reading day for me. So I have gotten 100 pages into Notes on an Execution. So I have heard from Ansel, the serial killer, a couple times now. We get his perspective counting down in the hours between every chapter. So it started with him, and then we got the first character we were introduced to was Lavender, and she was 17 whenever she had him. And she was in this relationship with this guy. She started this relationship because she wanted to get away from what she grew up with. She thought that she would have a better life. And it turns out he was very manipulative and he never let her leave. Like, she gave birth in a barn and did not leave for 2 whole years during the time that she had Ansel and his younger brother. So we learn about how Ansel grew up a little bit too within that story and saw the thing that was maybe the catalyst for everything that happened in his life. There's the idea of nature versus nurture, because clearly his dad was not good. He was truly a piece of shit, and he didn't even grow up with his dad past those 2 years. So that's just like an interesting thought. So then we jump back to Ansel a little bit closer to his execution, and we are learning about his little plan he has forming. He thinks he's smarter than everybody. He has this mastermind plan, and he wants to complete his plan. I won't really say any more about that. Then we are following Safi, who is in the first chapter that we meet her. She is at the foster home with Ansel, so she gets to know him growing up and has these not so great experiences with him, and then we know that she grows up to be a detective who is chasing him, trying to get him in jail. She has devoted her life to chasing men like Ansel and specifically him, but she's just like struggling overall. Then we see a little bit more from him, and then we meet Hazel, who in the first chapter that we see her, she is the twin sister to Ansel's girlfriend, who we know he ends up marrying. So she is very much a part of his adult life. Her and her twin are super, super close, and for a while were inseparable, as a lot of twins are, and Ansel is kind of the thing that drove them apart. So there's all these different perspectives on his life from different timelines. I think it'll be interesting to see his mother, because she is the most separated from him, and I think if we see her thoughts later on him, I would really enjoy that. This is one that is a bit slower. We are learning somebody's entire life story up until his death, and I like that we are getting his impact on other people and not just his thoughts on things. It more so centers people that are kind of unfortunate enough to have somebody like this in their lives. I do think this is one that is going to be the culmination of everything that brings it all together. Like right now, I'm not obsessed with anything, but I think it's very intriguing. So I am really liking this, and I'm excited to see more so where this ends up going. I was going to move and find a different spot, but Nova's sitting with me and she's so cute. And I've been sitting here working on my diamond painting that I started during Summerween, so it's been a while since I've done that. I have been listening to the audiobook. I did play some Phasmophobia. I was ghost hunting for a little bit, but I'm now 68% into Notes on an Execution. Can I have this, girly? I am liking this still, but at this point, it's not as impactful as I thought that it was going to be. I've seen tons and tons of 5 stars for this. I still do think that this is going to be an end of the book is when it like really hits me kind of situations, but I'm just like, I don't know, the process of reading it is just not what I thought it was going to be. The storylines are all very, very different, and I feel like there's no real, not real impactful moment, but there's nothing that's like really sucking me into the story because I feel like they all feel very mundane, which I think part of this is to kind of show that these men that are typically glorified in a lot of true crime scenarios aren't as impressive or exciting or whatever as the media makes them to be. Sorry, I'm hiding a Nova loaf from you. So I get it, and I think that I could give this one 4 stars, but I don't feel an emotional impact to it. I don't feel the tension that is apparently supposed to be in this. I do like seeing how things are fitting together because they're not all set at the same time. They're all set at very different times. And I do think that they might come together in certain aspects. And I'm seeing little glimpses of that. But I think I want maybe more of that. I'm not sure. I'm liking it though. I am. I just think that I expected something slightly different from it. And I thought it was going to be a little more tense and stressful. No, it just shook the whole thing. And it's not really that. I have finished Notes on an Execution. So on top of this, we also have a lot to talk about because this is the last book for 2023 book troop that I needed to read. So I'm going to give you another quick overview of that year. And then I also have already read all of 2024's picks, so I'm going to talk to you about that as well. This one I am going to give 4 stars. I enjoyed the conversations in it. I never felt the tension or any sort of suspense, which I didn't go into this expecting it to be a fast-paced, suspenseful read, but the back does say that it is unbearably tense. I like the conversations on how serial killers are treated and how victims are treated and how these things impact the lives, what are you doing, Winston, of so many people. I think my problem with second person is I always read it as that character talking to me, not talking about you being that person. But I think it was an interesting choice to put us in the perspective of this man. I overall very much enjoyed this. I would recommend it. I do think I liked The Quiet Tenant a little bit more, but I gave them both 4 stars, and I wonder if that's because I read that one first versus this one. I'm really glad that I read this. It was one that I kept putting off because I was scared of it for some reason, but I love the discussions, and I really like a unique format book. So I finished the 4 books that I needed to for 2023. Out of this list, my favorite was definitely Notes on an Execution. And then I guess my least favorite was Good Bad Girl because I didn't finish it. But the other 2 were both 2 stars. So not great. Not great. Looking at the rest of the books, the only one I couldn't get my hands on for this whole video was Nana by Brandon Massey, which really frustrates me. Actually, there's another one for this year that I wasn't able to get a copy of. My library doesn't have Nana, even though I borrowed it from them initially, so I guess the copy was just like worn out and they didn't replace it. But in this stack, and including Nana, I generally liked everything, but I don't have any like true standout favorites from this. I think my favorite of this list though would be The Only One Left by Riley Sager. I did give this one 5 stars, but it's not my favorite from him either. And then my least favorite from the entire year is Good Bad Girl. So moving on to 2024, this is the best year of the book troop picks. It has so many 5 stars for me, so many favorites. So these are all the picks from this stack. My least favorite is by far Someone in the Attic. I gave this one 2 stars, and that's the only one in this stack that I did. After that, I have some 3 and 3.5 star reads. I have some 4/4.5 star reads, and then these are my 5 star reads. But my favorite 2, I can't pick. I didn't rank my 2024 favorites because I just could not do it. My 2 favorites are Diavola and We Used to Live Here, two of my favorite books of the year, ones that I think about very, very often, and I truly just love. So these are my favorites from 2024. Seriously, such a good year of picks. So now we're moving on to this year, 2025. I've actually only read 3 of the picks. Dark Places I read a couple years ago, and then When the Wolf Comes Home and With a Vengeance I read this year. They both came out this year. So the next one I have to read is Beautiful Ugly. Once again, I am an Alice Feeney hater. I am. But I gave that last one a go again, Good Bad Girl, knowing that I had DNF'd it already, like pretty much immediately. So I wanted to give it a try. This one I'm going to give a try. I know there are going to be people that don't believe me and think that I'm just going to hate it because it has Alice Feeney's name on it. But there's something about her books that I just don't tend to like, so I don't know what it is. I'm gonna try my best. So I'll talk to you with my initial thoughts in the morning. I've read almost 2 full books today, so I'm going to bed. In a turn of events that is quite shocking for me, I am having a really good time with Beautiful Ugly. I've been listening to the audiobook while working on my diamond painting, so I need to figure out how many pages in I am, but I'm 32% in. Okay, I'm 8 or 9 pages in. So in this we are following Grady, and he is a writer, and at the very beginning, he is talking to his wife on the phone, and there is somebody that's on the side of the road, and she gets out to help him. She's on her way home, and he had just shared this like really exciting news. He's a New York Times bestselling author now. He is a writer. She has been very supportive of him, and then she ends up pulling over to help this person, and doesn't hang up the phone, and hears her walking away, and then doesn't hear anything for a little bit. And then there are footsteps that come back, and then this like weird heavy breathing in the car that he believes is not his wife, and then it hangs up, and he, I guess, doesn't have another car, so he's trying to find his way to get to her. By the time he gets to the car, she is not there anymore. There is no sign of her. There's no sign of anybody else. So she is missing and does not come back. So he is really, really struggling. That all happened about a year ago. So now in the present timeline, Grady is due to write his second book. Like, his publisher is like, hello, where is it? And he's just drowning in his grief. From his perspective, there's a very perfect marriage. They didn't really have many problems other than the fact that she prioritized work. She was a journalist, I think an investigative journalist. So she was very interested in what she was doing, and that was really the only source of tension between them. But he like truly loved her, and he really cannot move past this. I mean, a year is not a very long time, and I think it's especially hard in a situation where you don't know what happened to somebody, because you can't truly process anything because you don't know what's going on. So his publicist, editor, one of those, offers him this cabin. She worked with a lot of different people, and this very prolific author who has died has left her his cabin in Scotland, this remote place, and she is like, here, go for 3 months. You can take the dog, and you just need to write your book, because I know you can do it, and I think you have a really good story in you. So he decides that he is going to do this. He has really no money left. He's gone through everything, and there are some suspicious things with her disappearance, because like, she did withdraw some money and stuff, but he just doesn't believe that he would have been left by her. So he gets to this island, and it's weird. There's only like 20 people that live on the island. Because he's an outsider, he's not allowed to bring his car, which is odd. There's no cell phone service. There's nothing with that. And he starts to think that he sees his wife. And then whenever he goes to like investigate, like, he'll see her off in the distance and like run, and then it's somebody else or whatever. So there's just like weird things going on with that. And then everybody in this town is just slightly off. And like, part of it could come from the fact that they have no interactions with most of the world. They have a doctor that comes in once a week. There's like a mail boat that goes out, but they don't have access to internet, to phones. They don't have like newspapers, things like that. So they're very, very, very isolated. And everybody is just like odd. So we're getting that, and he is going to write this book. So there's both a storyline with him trying to write the book and some things that he has found in this house, and then also trying to find his wife and believing that he might be seeing her. Then we're also getting perspective of Abby 1 week before she disappeared, learning that their marriage is not what Grady thinks it is, or he's lying to himself or something. She believes that she's kind of like trapped in the situation. Her life is very different than what she expected. So we know that there's probably more going on than we're really aware of. I am finding this very interesting. I like isolated stuff, and I think that like the town being kind of creepy and the people just like being slightly off is just like very unsettling. I think that the plot with him writing this book is also kind of fun, and they have started to intersect a little bit. So I'm very, very surprised that, that I am liking this, but this is proof that like I'm not just disliking the other books that I dislike from her because I've disliked others, and I feel like people think that. So I'm having a fun time. I'm going to keep listening to the audiobook and doing my diamond painting. There's some sound effects in this audiobook where I am like taking, like, because I wear like over ear headphones, and I like take one off, and then I'm like, oh, actually that's in the audiobook, because there's like there's a distance from the mic, and it's just, I don't know, it's adding to the like atmosphere that is happening in here as well. Our main character is truly so isolated, like a car can't even get to the cabin he is staying at. So I'm liking it. I'm really liking it. And I've looked in some people that love the ones that I don't really like this one. So I think that's interesting. And like maybe I just need to read her least popular ones. Also, I just want to quickly shout out the Readathon Rebellion that's happening in September. I am a council member for it, so I'm hosting sprints and I'll have a video out. It is a game board style month-long readathon hosted by Mel from Melanor Reads. You learn more story as you go, and we are trying to save like the rebellion leader, but I'm using the bookmark for it that is really pretty, so I just wanted to show that off. Okay, more diamond painting, more audiobook listening to Beautiful Ugly, and I am here to report still not DNFing. I have made it 194 pages in, and I'm liking it a little bit less because we've been getting more from Abby and revealing things in that way that then our main character Grady admits to like some issues within his marriage, and I just don't care about reading about their specific problems because it's just like, I don't know, boring real life things that I'm like, okay, and which that's like my problem in a lot of domestic thrillers anyway. I also am feeling a little burnt out on thrillers in general. This is not specific to this book at all, but a lot of the books that I hadn't previously read for the booktube are the thriller picks, and I do think Gabby has a little bit more thriller picks anyway, but I've already read almost all the horror ones other than this year we're in. So we are following Grady, trying to figure out the same things. There's nothing new going on. There's a tiny bit of an element of like town history that is being implemented, and I'm like, what are we doing with this? But I don't like believe it's gonna go in the direction that it is somewhat leading us towards. I really like Weird Island vibes where everybody's just like slightly strange, things are slightly ominous and weird. So I'm not obsessed with this, but pleasantly surprised. I am engaged in the story. Where I ended, this like bigger thing happened, and I just don't know if I believe it. I feel like in Alice Feeney books, she's trying to trick you. She's trying to pull off this big twist, and I don't know what I'm really supposed to believe versus not. I have some theories, but we'll see how that goes. I am not somebody that the twist is the only thing that matters in the book, and with Alice Feeney books, like, even if I think that the twist is decent, if I get to that point in the book, I am never blown away because I'm usually frustrated and not enjoying the book up until that point. But with this one, I am generally enjoying it, so this could end up being a win for me. I'm still not quite sure what to expect, but it's going well. Okay, I don't know how I'm feeling about this, so we're going to talk through my thoughts, and hopefully I'll have a rating at the end of this. I was pretty interested in this book the whole time. I was never completely obsessed with it, but I was flying through the story. I was invested in what was happening. I definitely preferred the one storyline over the other, even though I knew that they would come together. But I feel like the end, even though I really actually liked a lot of aspects of it, I got whiplash while reading this book, because it would be one of those situations where it's like, oh, and this is the thing, and then they're like, just kidding, with not everything, but more than I would want, which, like, really, I don't like that in general, so that's not my preferred thing, but it happened at least more than once, which I don't love. The other thing is, I have read multiple from Alice Feeney before, and this, like, the end of this combined things she's done in previous books before, and it just felt like, why are you doing this again? I don't want to go into any more detail than that because I don't want to spoil this one or other ones. So I've attempted 5, I've read 3 and DNF 2, and I know what happens in them. So I don't know. I didn't really love that specific choice either, because I was like, okay, you couldn't think of anything else, so you just did this thing again and just put it with something else. It was fine, but like the actual substance of like the reasoning behind things and all of that, I was very much into. So I think I'm going to settle on a 3.5, 3.75. I do like quarter stars sometimes, but I'll probably just generally rate it 3.5, which is a huge success for me for Alice Feeney books. And even though I wasn't obsessed with this one, this kind of makes me, it's frustrating, but I am now more interested in trying other books from her again, even though, especially after DNFing Good Bad Girl, I was like, I'm going to DNF this one and I'm never going to read her books ever again. And now I'm like, but what if? I still don't think that she's ever going to be my favorite author. She definitely writes very over-the-top things, and in this case it worked for me because it was more so the plot, well, at the end. The beginning was very slow, and like I enjoyed it because I was like, these are weird people, what's going on? But it was definitely like slow moving with the plot. I don't know how I got to this part in the sentence. I don't know. I don't know how to fully process everything, but I did overall like it, which is good. It's really good. So a 3.5 for this is a huge unexpected win for me. I was convinced that I was going to DNF it. Kind of glad that I gave this one a go. It was kind of fun. I just wish that it was like the unhinged kind of explanation without all the whiplash, because it was too much and it didn't feel necessary to the story. I think that I would have liked it more without those things, because it would have had more time to like develop that stuff instead of the time spent towards false endings and false situations that just like was not necessary, which I know some people just want that big twist, and that is what people are looking for, and I am too, but not the way that this one is done. So another book done. Next up, we're moving on to Listen to Your Sister by Nina Veal, which is one that I am very interested in. I had this from the library earlier this year, and then I ended up not being able to get to it in time before I had to return it, so I'm glad that this is a pick. This one is more speculative horror, which I think could work so well for me. Oh, you can see my bag of Sun Chips. You didn't see anything. I have made it to part 2 of Listen to Your Sister. The first part of this I don't necessarily love. I think that it was really, really long, and the writing feels very disjointed to me. So we are following 3 siblings. We're following Calla, who is the oldest, and she has pretty much adopted her youngest brother. So she's close in age to her brother Dre, and Dre has his own life, is someone that works in a restaurant. He's like very into like food, like making food kinds of things. Like that is his passion in life. And then she's also the caretaker for Jamie. Jamie lives with her. Dre lives on his own. He has been getting in trouble a lot recently. We are seeing his perspective as he's like involved in different things. Calla is also only 25, so she never really expected to be in charge of a teenage boy, especially not at this age. But it has taken such a toll on her that people think that she is his mother. She has aged a lot faster than somebody her age should look. Calla also thought she was going to be getting more help from Dre, and he kind of is like, let him do his thing, he's fine. But she has these recurring nightmares where both of her brothers, I think it's die. They might just get hurt. Yeah, she has recurring images of her brothers dying that she's powerless to stop. And then we are following Jamie while he is at a protest, and a lot of things spiral very quickly. There's a lot of horrific things that go on, and he ends up calling Calla, and sounds like he is possibly going to end his life, so she panics and is trying to find him. So the back says that they then go on the run, but that has not happened in part 1. They just end up finding Jamie at the end of all this stuff. So part 2 is called The Cabin, and with the cabin on the front, like, I figured they would end up in this cabin. A remote cabin, looks like it belongs in a slasher movie poster, but it's an Airbnb, and they have this, like, new threat. The things that Jamie witnessed were very horrific, and he feels that there's going to be particular ramifications of everything that he does not want to be involved in. So Calla is dealing with the stress of her brothers, the dynamics between everybody, but specifically with Jamie, and then these nightmares that she is having, and things start to seem like maybe they are related to her dreams in some way. So they're about to go to this cabin. It says Calla always warned her brothers about her nightmares. They really should have listened. So with this being speculative fiction, I'm assuming that her nightmares are coming to life in some sort of way, which I think is really interesting. I'm just really not loving the way that this story is told. I'm 110 pages in, and I do think that this could have been cut down in some aspects. I feel like it's been a little confusing to follow, and I really think that just comes down to the writing style not being my favorite. So I'm going to keep going for a little bit. This is separated into 4 parts, so I think I'm going to read part 2 and 3 and then check in at the end of that. But there is a chance that I'm not going to continue reading it because the writing style is just not my favorite, and that's the main reason that I DNF. With this being speculative horror, that's the reason that I have been pushing through, but I don't know if that is enough for me to end up really enjoying this story. I'm a little bit nervous now, but definitely still gonna give it a little bit more at least. Hello. I have read 2 more chapters of Listen to Your Sister, so that might tell you where this is going. I'm on Patreon Sprints, and I was discussing my thoughts and feelings on this book, and I've come to the conclusion that I am going to DNF it. I think that this is one that has a lot of really great discussions on it, with a sibling that has turned into a parent figure and the responsibilities that come with that. I liked the social discussions in here on what it is like to be a Black person, especially in the instance of protests and things like that. The ways that growing up is different for specifically Black people in this, but really any person of color, versus being a white person in the same scenario being treated differently because of that. But even though I like the discussions and I think those are good, I feel so disconnected from the story because of the writing style. Everything just feels confusing and disjointed, and the speculative stuff isn't really as much of the story as I want it to be, and I know that it'll come into play a little bit more later, but there's just like something in me that is not reading because I don't want to pick up this book. I keep putting it down, and I'm not really wanting to get back into this story, which sucks because I love speculative stuff in books. But a big reason I DNF a lot of books is the writing style, and sadly that's just the case for this one for me. Oh, I did get 125 pages in. So I feel like I gave it a pretty fair chance. So even though I didn't like the writing, I do think I would give this author's book future books another chance. Because things like that can change just with time or with different stories and things like that. And maybe because of the speculative aspect of this, it is feeling a little more disconnected for me. But like, it's not because I don't relate to the characters or appreciate the conversations. It is just the way the story is actually told. So I am going to be DNFing Listen to Your Sister, and I am moving on to Tell Me What You Did by Carter Wilson. This is the only book that I have to read that I couldn't get the physical copy for, and I haven't heard the best things about this one either, so I didn't want to buy it. So I will be starting this one. I have not read from Carter Wilson before, but it has a very actually, no, that's not true. I actually DNF'd one of his books, so that's really fun for me. Okay, well, we'll see how this goes. I have made it pretty far into Tell Me What You Did. I am at 48% in. So I just got to part 3, and I was going to check in earlier, but part 2 was only 20% in, and I was like, part 3 is not that far away. I was wrong. Significantly further in the book than I thought. So I've been playing the mountain climbing game on my computer and just like getting different badges that I don't have to like really completely pay attention to the game for. So I am finding myself enjoying this a lot more than I thought I was going to. We're following Poe, and she's the host of a super, super popular true crime podcast. And it's a very unique podcast because this woman invites guests on to admit to a crime. And she is allowed to turn them in. She has different rules where she like doesn't accept things related to children or animals or things like that. And these people come on and confess something, and it has blown up because she works with her partner, who is her boyfriend, and he kind of vets the people, and she doesn't really know anything about them, so we get her true reactions. The first story in here, I was on the edge of my seat. It was so fun. I wish we were getting more things like that. So now we are mostly following this one situation because this guy calls in and claims that he murdered her mother, and nobody in her life except for her dad knows this. She tells people that her mom died in a car accident, including her boyfriend, which is a big point of contention for them because he knows that she's hiding something. Like, he can tell, and she just won't tell him what it is. So this whole story is coming to light. She decides to accept him onto her podcast, and he wants the same format as everybody else, which is 15 minutes to talk without interruption. But he knows that she did something in the past. I want to see what the synopsis says. It does say that she is like, I don't think you're who you say you are, because she knows that she killed at least who she thought was her mother's murderer in the past. And this has happened 7 years ago, and now everything is coming to light. It seems like he might have more information, and her story might come to the public. The thing is, I was so invested in this at the beginning, and now the story is starting to drag a little bit. We are really just watching this back and forth between these two characters, and I wish we were getting a little bit more of outside stuff because I feel like we haven't progressed the story. At this point, this guy is starting to talk to the podcast because he only agrees to do it if it's a live stream, which is something that she does not normally do. But she agrees to do it because she feels like he's going to reveal information about her, or is like kind of not blackmailing her, but like she kind of feels that way. There is something, oh, Winston. There's something really funny because there's QR codes in the book, which I did not know about until I saw a review. It was actually Gabby's that mentioned it. And I asked my Patreon if anybody had it and could send me the QR codes. Okay, Winston. So I got to the first one, and it's a really interesting reenactment of the podcast part that we just witnessed. And like, not to be mean, but it's really funny. And it's not supposed to be. So I love that. I love the inclusion of things like that, but like, it was an interesting one. It was a choice. So I have moments of this where I'm truly so obsessed with it. I think it's a very unique take on a podcast story. I think it's a really unique take on like true crime aspects in a book. And I was like, this is going to be 5 stars. Like, actually, I'm completely obsessed with this until probably 30%, and I was like, okay, we need to like move some things forward, I think. So I do think I'm gonna overall enjoy this, but I needed to pick up some, and that's like my main complaint. I need some more things to happen, something introduced to the story, some sort of dynamic shift, something, because there's no action within the setting or the plot or the characters at this point. But I am liking it. So I'm probably just going to finish the rest of this because there's only one more part. Part 3 is the rest of the book, and I'm already halfway in. I'm looking forward to seeing how everything wraps up, though. I really like this kind of like psychological thriller, but I wish that there was just a little bit more going on. I have finished Tell Me What You Did. Here's the thing. This had the most potential out of, I feel, any book I've read recently. I think the concept was so up my alley, something that I could love. The first, probably, I don't know, 175, maybe, I don't know, pages, I was like, this is a new favorite, 5 stars. And then, not that it went downhill, but like it did. I think I'm going to give this one 3.5. I still overall enjoyed it, but tell me why I feel like every time it got interesting, the author is like, no, we're not going to watch that. What do you mean? They were talking, there's this podcast, like there was a video live stream, and I feel like we really shied away from seeing that, and it was like a little bit of it and then jumped to reactions and the aftermath. I think that if Karen Slaughter wrote this book, that would be it for me. I actually need that, but like I can't ask somebody to like write the same exact book, but like just more detailed and involved in stuff. And I mean, obviously I can't ask Karen Slaughter to write anything because I don't know her, but I think that that would be the perfect book for me. This had so much potential in it, but there were just some weird choices that were made. I don't understand the thought process behind some of these things. I definitely liked this a lot more than the book that I DNF'd from him before. I enjoyed not all the writing choices because like I do wish that we got more of the story, but I liked the writing itself. I liked our main character. I liked the plot. I do think our main character had some like blinders on. There were certain things I'm like, what are you doing? And I do wish that there was some more development between relationships with our main character. This definitely dragged a lot, which is kind of surprising considering we didn't get a lot of the stuff that was going on like in as much detail as I thought we would. And I don't know. The thing is, I know for a fact that Carter Wilson can write tension and stress in this podcast format because at the very beginning I was like, oh, I'm gonna lose it reading this book because this is so good. And then he just kind of dropped the ball a little bit for me. I'm both happy and a little disappointed with this book. I did overall enjoy it. I really think it's such a cool concept, but it ended up being more disappointing, especially because I was loving the beginning of it. I might try more from him, but I think I'll just stick with the ones that sound very intriguing to me because the other one that I read, I was sent, and I thought that there were certain parts of it that sounded good, but I didn't like the direction it went in. There was also a travel book, which I don't know if I realized beforehand, but I don't usually love them. So, yeah, 3.5 stars. Now we are moving on to, I think, my most anticipated book out of all of these, Immaculate Conception. I have started Immaculate Conception, and I am, I think, 32% in. I am about to go to an event with Chuck Tingle, with Monica. So we've been listening to the book. I said, here you go, you're going to read this with me. I really gave her no choice. And I was like, it's weird. And guess what? He is risen. That makes no sense if you haven't read this book, but by that I don't mean Jesus. I mean a penis. I think I broke Monica over here. Okay, the book. Anyway, we are following, I don't know her name, Anka. Thank you for... Okay, I can do this. Anka is a college student, and she is going for an art degree, and this book is something else. So, it's a story of obsession within friendship and your work, and how issues within those things can lead to not really knowing who you are. So Enka goes to college and she meets Mathilde, which I want to put an A on the end. There's a man walking by. Gotta lock my car. Monica's having a great time over here, just like giggling and covering her face. Okay. Someone's pulling up beside me. Don't look at me. Focus, you can do this. So she is in art school and she meets Mathilde in this interesting circumstance, and they form this very unhealthy, obsessive friendship, mostly on Enka's part. She doesn't really know who she is, and her art isn't going as well as she wants it to, especially compared to her friends. So there's a lot of like comparison, and there's people pulling in, and I am stressed. There's AI in here. I have no brain capacity. I've driven for 5.5 hours today already. Some of the art is penis related, as I said, and then it's really weird. There's been... Okay, here's the thing. Monica and I both zoned out at the same exact time and, like, missed probably 5 sentences. And all of a sudden, someone was talking about specific things in a confessional. And that's where He Has Risen comes from. And then we died because it was hilarious. So there's been some interesting art expression in this book. And where we are right now, they're just really starting to talk about this like AI brain swapping, not brain swapping, but like memory swapping into a different brain kind of thing. And our main character kind of puts herself in a situation where she's then invited to be part of this project to like make an art piece about it, and then ends up not doing that because like this thing happens and it's sketchy. There's also this like database of art that has caused a lot of issues, and I'm assuming that's going to continue with conversations around AI and computer generated art and things like that. So far I'm liking it. I do think it took me just a little bit to get into the story because I didn't care as much about these characters, but now I'm very into it. I'm curious, like, what is going on? So we're gonna go listen to Chuck Jingle Talk, which is gonna be a different kind of weird time. I have been reading Immaculate Conception. I'm leaving to go to Canada for about a week tomorrow. I'm actually going to be doing the live show when I am in Canada. This will be posted and I will be on vacation. So I'm 180 pages in, and I didn't really talk much about my excitement for this book before because I was in the car and had a lot of very specific things to share with you. So I read Natural Beauty for, I guess it was the Goodreads Choice Awards nominees for 2023. Yeah, because this did not come out last year. And I was like, I'm not going to like this book. I'm going to start it, probably going to DNF it, move on with my life. It made it onto my favorite books of the year list for that year. I ended up really loving it. I loved the discussion. It was very engaging for me. It got really weird and I was just completely obsessed with it. Ling Lang Huang does write literary horror, so like that's why I was a little scared of it. But Immaculate Conception, even though I've been putting it off because it's been out for a couple months, is one of my most anticipated books of this year. And I am liking it, but I always find that the surprise 5-star favorites just like hit different for me because I'm not expecting anything from them. And this one, because I'm like, well, I know that you can really impress me and I can have such a great time with your story, like I feel like I expect more. So while I am liking this, I don't feel as engaged in the story, and I do think I've seen people generally like Natural Beauty a little bit more. I'm still really liking it. I think that there's been some very unique discussions in here. There is like AI technology, both with its relation to art and to literal like brain swapping kind of things, and the intersection of those as well, and how art can be impacted. There's discussion around art and the way that people's experiences and emotions dictate popularity. There's also conversations around like, is it art if it's not like a traditional form of art, things like that. There's also another very obsessive relationship in here like there was in Natural Beauty. Enka is very obsessed with Mathilde. She doesn't really know how to function on her own without her, and even when their lives kind of diverge and they take separate paths, she is always just like thinking about Mathilde and things she's doing and how that is like changing how she wants to do things. So the synopsis actually mentions something that isn't really happening at this point. So I'm kind of upset that I just read that because I'm really, really excited for that, but I think it would have been even more fun if I didn't know that was happening. So right now there's been a lot of things going on. We are following these two in the past and the present. So in the present, we know that Mathilde has gone missing for a certain amount of time, and in the past we are seeing the forming of their relationship and how they end up to where they are in the present. They are spending some time together, and like, I guess if I would have thought about it, putting where everything has gone together, like I can see where the synopsis is like, it makes sense, but I kind of wish that that was maybe left out a little bit, even though I do think it was a little bit necessary for the marketing of this book, especially with it being horror. Like, you can't just say that it's a horror book and not give you anything. Ugh, I love aardvark books. They're so soft. The little tag of this is, what if you could enter the mind of the person you love the most? And I do wish that we were focusing on that a little bit more. That is some of the stuff that is going to be happening later. But I wish we were a little more focused on like the experiment side of this, even though I think that we are going to go there in the rest of the books. So I think right now, just because I like the way that Ling Ling Huang tells stories and the discussions and the obsession that she focuses on, like, I think it'll be 4 stars at least. The ending could definitely take it up though. I didn't realize it, but this is separated into a couple different parts. So I'm in the middle of one now, and the one that I'm in the middle of, it was a pretty big shift getting to that. So I'm curious how the last one will come into play as well. Hello. I have finished Immaculate Conception. I think I'm going to give this 4 to 4.5 stars. I didn't love it nearly as much as Natural Beauty. And my main complaint is that I am obsessed with a lot of the things that happen, but I wish there was more detail on that. This was more focused on the relationship and the obsession between these friends, mostly one-sided on our main characters. And even though they definitely both had not healthy parts of their relationship, I wish that it went just deeper into the scientific stuff, which like is probably mostly my personal opinion. While I found their dynamic interesting, it wasn't as interesting as the other stuff that was going on for me, and I think that's the problem. If the kind of sci-fi plot in here wasn't as good as it was, I wouldn't have been like, but I want more of that instead of this, because obsession and a relationship kind of similar to this one is in Natural Beauty as well, and I really loved it in that one. So slightly disappointed in this because like I didn't give it 5 stars, but I'm really happy that I read this. I don't think it's gonna end up making it on my favorite books of the year, which I was hoping that it would. I was really hoping. And I would like Ling Ling Huang to include more sci-fi in her next book, just for me personally. So we are moving on to the last booktube pick, the Ghostwriter. I will have the live show linked that I am doing with Gabby and Vanessa, so you can hear my more spoiler-filled thoughts on this. I'm not going to be taking this copy with me. I have it on my Kindle. I'm about to leave to go to Canada. I am visiting Cassidy from Covers with Cassidy with Mel from Eleanor Reads and Monica from A Little Bit of Monica. It's going to be so much fun. I'm going to be there for 6 days and then 2 days of travel, so it's a pretty long trip. I am going to start this on the drive to my parents' house because my dad is going to take me to the airport. I have really enjoyed From Julie Clark before. I liked The Last Flight or something like that. I don't know where it is, but that one surprised me as well. I didn't think I would like it as much as I did. I think I gave it 4 stars, so fingers crossed I like this one too. I'm at my parents' house and I don't have a tripod. This is Fallon. He wants my love. I am 13 chapters into the Ghostwriter. You're really heavy. And I am really liking this one. So in this, we are following... I keep wanting to say Julie, but that's the author's name. So we are following Olivia, and she is a ghostwriter, and she gets contacted by her agent, and they're like, this very popular author is asking for you. And they aren't taking no for an answer. They don't want anything to do with anybody else. Turns out it's her estranged dad. So in 1975, her dad's brother and sister were murdered, and it is thought that her dad, Vincent, did it. So Olivia takes this job ghostwriting. She thinks it is for one of his fiction books. Turns out it's a memoir of his childhood. So he's doing like a tell-all. Fallon. Sorry, this dog wears a diaper. So he's doing a tell-all, and he's been diagnosed with this form of Alzheimer's. So it's very different because there's like no stages of it, but it's similar in like the dementia kind of thing. So it affects his ability to write and to read, so he needs her to help tell his story. So she only agrees to do it because she does not have enough money. She has been involved in some lawsuits. She very much is a feminist, which like I appreciate the conversations surrounding that, both with Olivia and with Poppy, the sister, the one that was murdered. Like I'm very much appreciating those conversations. I'm enjoying those, and as somebody who shares a lot of the same opinions with like how it sucks for men to be treated as better. Like, I get it. I'm gonna hurry up because my nephew is screaming for me. She ends up taking this job. It's more daunting than she thinks, and she's learning about her dad's past. So she believes that he's a murderer, and parts of it feels like he might be, parts of it feels like that's not what's going on. So we are getting a little bit of his chapters in the past where he's just like weird, aggressive opinions and like is kind of stalking his girlfriend that turns into his wife. It's a weird thing. But I'm really liking it. I'm liking the writing style. I find it very engaging, and I'm having a fun time. Hello from Canada. Also a different camera, so it might look slightly different. I'm borrowing Cassidy's because it's too big to fit into the single backpack that I brought on my trip. I have made it 70% into the Ghostwriter. So we are continuing to really just like learn about everything that happened with Vincent in the past. We are now getting Poppy's perspective, his sister. She's not alive anymore, so like she is giving us a lot of information that's not filtered through the lens of like trying to hide things. So I'm liking that. I like Poppy a lot. She's very much like, I guess, ahead of her time. She is questioning why women are treated differently than men, and kind of like pushing to get what she wants as a person. And then we are still being led to believe that Vincent, the dad, is like this creepy weirdo and is the murderer. But I really don't think that that is what's happening. I think it's too obvious, and it has been the whole time. So like, I mean, I could be wrong. It just feels like that is not a spoiler, because from page 1, I'm like, if he's the one that everyone thinks did it, there's no way in this kind of book. I feel like our main character isn't as exciting as I want her to be, but I don't have any like real issues with her. There's been some fun interactions between her, what is her name? I can only think of Poppy right now. I don't know, I don't remember her name. Because we're learning about things that are related to her childhood that are also related to the past, and she didn't realize. So watching her put these pieces together, I'm enjoying. I'm not obsessed with this, but I think it's a fun time. I think that Julie Clark's writing is very engaging. Like, I think the story is very readable, and I really like the kind of investigating that she's doing, because she believes that the information she has been told is false, and not necessarily because of like inherently trying to hide things, part of it, but also because of her father's dementia. So she's really trying to figure out what truly happened, and she has to go about that in a way that is like kind of like sneaking around and stuff. There's also some external relationships, I guess. A friend from high school that has known her since all of this and knows everything about her past. Her boyfriend, fiance, that is removed from everything. He doesn't know all of the details. He thinks her family is like not around. So I'm liking it. I think it's probably going to be 4 stars, which is what I gave Julie Clark's previous book. I'm going to finish this like by the pool, just hanging out, looking at the lake. Incredible. But I'm having fun, and I'm excited to talk about this with everybody. This light is a bit aggressive, but I have finished the Ghostwriter, and I think I'm gonna give it 4 stars. I liked the way that the story was told. I liked the format, the way that these stories were woven together. We are getting Olivia trying to piece everything together with limited information. We are getting her conversations with Vincent, her father, in the present day, Also, we're getting his perspective in the past. We're getting Poppy's perspective in the past. I love Poppy as a character. I do think that this one was like a little heavy on the red herrings. I think it was obvious when things were and were not what was happening. The final culmination of everything, I think, was maybe a little underwhelming, but also kind of realistic as well. So I think that that was decent. There was a lot of like, at the end, all the pieces kind of like fit into their place. And I think that the way that everything's woven together worked really, really well. I will continue to read from Julie Clark. I've only read the Last Flight. I haven't read The Lies I Tell or whatever that's called. So I might go back and read that at some point. I'll read her stuff that comes out. I'm really glad that I got the first edition of this with the sprayed edges. This did not blow me away. It's not my favorite thriller that I've ever read, but it was entertaining, it was fun, and I had a good time with it. So I would recommend it. I'm really excited to discuss some of this in more detail with Gabby and Vanessa. I think it'll be a good conversation because there's a lot that happens at the end. There's some really sad moments in here, how other people's decisions and bad actions, that was a weird way to say that, can impact people for so long. So I overall really liked it. Really, I think Poppy was one of my favorite parts of this, and then just like watching all the pieces fit together. So for the 2025 year for BookTube so far, I think my favorite pick has been Immaculate Conception, but I've given quite a few of them 4 stars, and I don't think I hated anything either. So that is a wrap. I've officially read every single book for the BookTube. I had a lot of fun with this, but I have previously read a lot of the ones I was already interested in, so I feel like there was a little bit of a slump in there. I will have the live show for the Ghostwriter linked in the description, as well as Gabby, who runs this book club. If you made it to the end and want to leave me an emoji to say we're here, you can leave me the book stack because I read a whole stack of books in this video. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope to see you in my next one. Bye.